Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and today I am starting a reading vlog, really a new series on my channel where I'm going to be reading some of my favorite booktubers' favorite books. This is not an original concept. Tons of booktubers have done this before with their favorite creators, and I think it's just a fun way for people to compare tastes with people that they like watching videos of to see if favorites line up. Today I am obviously starting with Jacqueline. If you're not familiar with Jacqueline, I will of course link her channel below, but she is a wonderful booktuber. She does really original fun content. She does reading vlogs with spoilers, secret TBRs. She does a lot of live shows and hosts readathons and things, and her favorite genres are mystery thriller, contemporary romance. And lately she's been getting more into like nonfiction, cult books, memoirs, things like that. But where her tastes and my tastes really, in my opinion, align is with those mystery thrillers as well as those hard-hitting contemporary romances. I've also had the privilege of getting to know Jacqueline on a little bit more of a personal level because I am a member and a moderator of her online Facebook book club, which is a super active and engaging book club with all kinds of games and challenges and ways to really motivate the members to read more. And so not only would I recommend checking out Jacqueline's channel, but I also would recommend checking out that book club if you're at all interested in gaining more bookish friends in that way. So I decided to pick 3 books off of her 2020 favorites list. These are all from her end of the year favorites video that I think I have a good chance of also enjoying. So let's go ahead and get right into the books. So the first book is Oona Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. And this is actually a little bit more of a sci-fi type book as far as I understand. It's about this main character named Oona who wakes up every year on her birthday in a different year and lives her life out of order like that. I know Jacqueline loves that time travel alternate reality kind of trope, as do I, and I trust her opinion that this is more than just, you know, the gimmick, and I'm really interested to get to know Oona as a character and what she goes through in her life. The next book that I picked is The Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams. This is an adult romance book. Jacqueline really likes emotional, hard-hitting romances, again, as do I. I prefer reading about adults falling in love and adults who are going through actual adult issues. I definitely think that this does that from what I've heard about it. The plot, I believe, is about this married couple who is having marital issues, and the husband joins or starts a book club in order for him and his guy buddies to discuss like romance and how to solve the issues in their marriages. I've heard that it goes deep, it's emotional, and I'm really excited to finally read it. It's been on my list for a very long time. It is part of a series. I think it's gonna be like a 6-book series or something, but 3 of them are out. Very interested to see how much I like this book and if I want to continue on with the series in the future. And then the last book that I picked out that I'm actually the most nervous for is All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood. And I have actually spoken directly to Jacqueline about this book, and she's told me that she's not sure how I would feel about this being someone who has a daughter. The premise of this book, as far as I understand it, is it's an age gap romance between a young girl and an older man. And that's definitely out of my comfort zone. I don't know what I'm gonna think about that trope or that romance. A little worried because, like she said, I do have a daughter, and so it's probably gonna be hard, like, not imagining it being, you know, my daughter in this situation, and I don't know. I'm keeping my mind open because Jacqueline loves it so much, and I'm sure that there is, you know, a lot of good stuff here, but a little worried, but we'll find out. So hoping to read these all within about a week. I'll do it vlog style, so I will update as I get into each book what my thoughts are, and then at the end, I guess we'll see if Jacqueline's favorites are my favorites and if I can take recommendations from her going forward. Hello, my friends. I wanted to check in because I am about 250 pages into the Bromance Book Club, and since I have less than 100 pages left, I thought I'd check in and give some thoughts while I'm in the middle of the story before I get completely to the end. This is a romance book, like I mentioned, about this married couple who are having issues. The wife requested a divorce, and so the husband is trying to save his marriage, and his buddies help him in doing that by introducing him to their book club where they read romance novels and try to learn lessons from those novels about what women want and how they want to be courted and things like that. Being so far into the book, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of my thoughts on it, and what I'm really liking about it is what I expected to like. It's about adults, obviously. Married adults having real marital issues. They have kids, and so they have so many factors going into their relationship to begin with. So it does feel like it's, you know, higher stakes for them to work on their relationship. I'm really interested to see how the last 100-ish pages go, because I'm hoping to see more, I don't know, actual emotion. Or how this book starts is we start right at the point where the wife is requesting the divorce. So we don't see really any of their relationship before that point. So we don't see them when they met. I mean, we hear stories of that kind of along the way, but that's not the focus of the story, so we don't get too much of that background of when they were happy. And then we also don't see much of the decline, if that makes sense. So it did feel a little bit sudden, or I don't know, to me it's been a little hard to get completely into their mindsets because we didn't get all of that history. We just get, you know, where they're at now. And so I'm interested to see how emotional the ending makes me feel when I'm assuming they eventually get back together. If it really feels like it's all coming together for me, or if it is lacking a little bit in that emotion. I'll be honest and say that I'm probably going to be a little bit picky in how I rate this book and the ending, because I am looking to be moved, because this claims to be, you know, a more adult, mature, hard-hitting romance book. I expect to feel something at the end, so we'll see. But it is reading really quickly, and so I expect to finish it tonight. Then I can hop on with my final thoughts. Oh, also I was gonna say, they do include some scenes from the romance book that they're reading in this book. And as someone who absolutely never reads historical romance, those chapters really don't do anything for me. I have no idea if they're like authentic to the genre or anything like that, because I just don't read it and I don't really care to. I can see why they're included because it is a fun edition, but for me in particular, I kind of just skim those chapters. But I'm gonna get back to reading now. I should be able to finish tonight, like I said. I did do some reading outdoors today, which is something that I know Jacqueline likes to do. I also kind of wanted to emulate a little bit of Jacqueline throughout this vlog and do some things that I know she likes to do. And so I got to read outside a little bit while my daughter was playing. And now I am actually going to look on the TV to see if there are any like atmospheric like background things to put on the TV. I know Jacqueline has done like the Netflix fireplace scenes before and read to that. I'm gonna see if I can find something a little more summery, like a campfire or something maybe, and then I'll just go ahead and finish this book. So I'll let you know when I finished and what my final thoughts are. Good morning, you guys. It is the next day and I finished Bromance Book Club last night, so I wanted to pop on and tell you my thoughts. I can already tell this is gonna be really hard. I've never read other people's favorites before and had to directly respond to what I think of them, so I feel a little awkward being honest, but to be honest, this disappointed me a little bit. I think part of it is I had kind of hyped this book up a lot in my mind. I had heard so many things that told me that on paper this was gonna be like perfect for me. I was gonna love it. It's about adults working through their marriage and going through emotional issues, and that all sounds like exactly what I look for in a romance. And so I think I was just putting too many expectations on this book to really like go there emotionally for me. After finishing this, I still have kind of the same thoughts that I had before of even by the end, I still didn't really feel like I really knew these two people's relationship and like I understood all of the 3 years of their marriage. And maybe part of that is even because I have been married for just over 3 years myself. And so I'm kind of comparing, you know, my marriage to their marriage and realizing how much my husband and I have already, you know, gone through. And we have one kid already, we have another on the way, so I understand that aspect of it. And I don't know, I just didn't feel like the depth and the history was really explored in this book that much to really make me care about them getting back together. But that could just be a me issue. It could just be me, again, putting too high of expectations on a book that at the end of the day is still kind of a rom-com. I read Jacqueline's review after finishing this on Goodreads, and she had said like she wants more. She wants more from this couple and she's excited to read the rest of the series. I just didn't end up with that feeling, and I think that's okay. Obviously, people like different books, that's fine. This just wasn't the life-changing, super impactful, emotional book I was hoping it would be, and that I kind of have my standards set at for adult romances. For reference, I think my favorite adult romance of all time is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I cried during that book. So obviously it really impacted me on a deep level. I was nowhere near crying finishing this book. So, I mean, it clearly just didn't impact me as much. But all that to say, I think I'm somewhere between like a 3 and a 4 star. I still liked it. I still definitely liked it more than all of the light and fluffy romances that I've read, like Christina Lauren and other authors that are really popular. It's just not a new favorite, unfortunately. Not sure if I'm ever gonna pick up the rest of the books in the series. Maybe at some point I will, but at this point, I'm not rushing out to pick it up. Moving on to the next book for this video, I have actually also started Oona Out of Order, and luckily this book is actually available on Hoopla for me to listen to the audiobook for free, and so I have started the audiobook, and I think that's probably the way I'm going to consume most of this book. So far it seems very easy to follow even through the audiobook, which I was a little worried about because it is you know, about this girl who wakes up in different years, and I was worried that things would get confusing, but so far it seems easy to follow. I am on chapter 6, which is about page 60, and it looks like it's less than 340 pages long, so it should be a quick listen. And today I actually have some productive things to get done around the house, and so I thought I would just have it on as I do that. Maybe I can finish it even within the day, we will see. Again, I'm a little bit inspired by Jacqueline. I'm gonna go ahead and clean out my fridge. I know that she is a minimalist. She likes things to be neat and clean and tidy and not cluttered, and I also really like for things not to be cluttered, and so my fridge has been neglected for a while, so I think I will clean that out, get it organized, get the rest of my kitchen all cleaned up, and like I said, listen to the audiobook in the meantime, and then we'll see what comes up for the rest of the day. But I'll keep you posted as I get further into Oona, hoping that I fall in love with this one more than I did the last one, but but either way, we will see, and I will let you know. Good morning, guys. It is the next day and I have finished Oona Out of Order. That's quite bright. And I really enjoyed it. I expected to, because this is really a type of book that I can dig into and that I typically enjoy, with that time travel kind of sci-fi aspect to it. What I typically love about these types of books is that they get you to think really hard about, like, what would you do in this situation, or how would you use this information to, like, better live your own life, you know, not being in this situation. And this one is really unique because it brings up the conversation of, like, fate and choices, because in this situation, Oona is, you know, time traveling or whatever, hopping to her different lives. And oftentimes the previous year her would write a letter to the next year her if she knew that she would be coming, you know, before she would live the previous year. I don't know if that's confusing, but she'd write a letter to herself to kind of prepare her for what the situation was and whatever. And as she navigated several different timelines, it just became really interesting to think about, like, are any of Oona's choices actually choices at this point? Because it's kind of like the fate discussion of, if you can't change the future, did it already happen? Are you really making your choices? I don't know if that's making any sense. It's a lot better of a conversation inside my head, but it's just interesting to think about Oona, you know, making these choices in whatever timeline she's currently in, even if she's already lived a future timeline or a future year where she sees how that plays out. It kind of seems like it's taking away the power of her choice. But the book itself didn't really dive into that. It made it pretty clear that, like, she was just living authentically and, you know, was making the choices and whatnot. But it was just interesting to think about, and I really appreciate that and enjoy that in books, when it gets you to do that deeper thinking and thinking in ways that you are not used to just thinking. So I am going to give this 4 stars and definitely recommend it to fans of similar books like The Midnight Library. I think Jacqueline has recommended this to fans of Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A recent book that I've read that I would kind of compare to this is The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. So Jacqueline, if you haven't read that book, I think you might like it. It's definitely not the same plot as this, but kind of similar. Oh, I also wanted to say, books like this often make me frustrated. It's kind of similar to, like, Groundhog's Day type books where someone's living the same day over and over, like how long it takes them to accept the reality and just go with it. It seemed to take Oona a really long time to accept that this was happening to her, which is obviously understandable. Like, none of us would just accept something like this happening because it's not real. But I always find it funny that I get kind of frustrated with myself for being frustrated with her for taking so long, because I just want to be like, just get into it. Like, this is your situation. Just do what, you know, you have to do. Enjoy enjoy where you're at, things like that. But let me know if anyone else gets similar feelings to that when they're reading fiction like this, where someone is in a totally unrealistic situation and you're just, like, trying to be like, all right, get with it, get over it. I don't know, that's one thing I was thinking kind of towards the beginning as I was still getting into it. It's like, all right, Oona, I get it, you're confused, but whatever. So with that, obviously I have 1 book left, so I am about to start All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. I'm still very nervous about this, but definitely hoping that going into this with minimal expectations could be the best situation. Again, all I know is it's an age gap romance with a young girl and an older guy. Definitely out of my comfort zone. I don't know if I've read anything really like this before. I think the only age gap romance I've read that I can think of is On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves, which is an older woman and a younger guy. I really liked that one, but I think it's probably kind of a different vibe than this one. This seems a little more dark and emotional, and that one's more like beachy. But I know Jacqueline did enjoy that book too. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with this and hopefully get through it pretty quickly and be able to let you guys know my thoughts. Here's to hoping that this takes me by surprise and that I end up really enjoying it. Maybe even finding a new subgenre or trope that I really enjoy. Checking in with some good news. I am about 50 pages into All the Ugly and Wonderful Things, and it's going really well so far. It's reading really quickly, which I appreciate, and I'm really loving getting to know our main character, the young girl. Like I mentioned, Jacqueline had expressed some concern about whether I would like this book because I have a daughter, and we follow this main character starting from when she's 5 years old. So she is a literal child, and I can definitely see how there could be some concern there about, you know, learning about a character when she's so young and then eventually seeing her get into this relationship, which sounds like it's going to be very taboo because of the age thing. And especially as someone, you know, with a daughter, kind of projecting my own protectiveness and whatever to this girl. I will say that because this girl, like, she's not at all like my daughter. I mean, first of all, my daughter's not even 2 yet, but this main character's upbringing is already so different. I can tell, like, she's got neglectful parents, she's eating out of the garbage, things like that. It's devastating, and I can already see how and why she would latch on to someone who makes her feel, you know, protected or provided for or whatever it is. I can already see that whatever happens to her is going to be more driven by like necessity and her actual needs to live. And I haven't gotten into the part where they're even starting to develop an actual relationship or anything. They've just met and he's the only somewhat stable adult in her life. So I'm really interested to keep reading. I'm guessing that this book is going to span a long time and a lot of years. And so I'm excited to not only really dig into that backstory and get to know, you know, our characters that much better, but to also see how that relationship does develop and to see if my feelings continue to go the same way. But I'm pleasantly surprised so far, like I said, and so I'm gonna go ahead and get right back to reading because I'm really liking it so far. Okay, time for the final update because I have finished all of the books for this video. So obviously most recently I finished all of The Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood. And this definitely was different than I was expecting. Like I mentioned, I liked the way that it was written, and I think from the beginning I got the sense that this isn't like the gratuitous, super taboo, like old guy falling in love with a child romance that I don't know if it's made out to be a little bit, but actually in looking more into reviews, I'm seeing that most people don't see it that way once you actually read the book, just because it's so clearly not what it is. I think this book did a really good job of kind of justifying the actions of the characters in this book. I don't think the older man is made out to be like predatory in any way, and I don't think the young girl was necessarily taken advantage of in any way either. But also, I don't feel like it was written as a romance in that way, nor did I think that this book was even trying to like say this is or isn't okay to happen in real life. I think it was much more just like, this is the story, read about these characters, get to know them as people, and find out how their lives play out. And so it was much more impactful in that way. I also really enjoyed, at the end of this book, there is like a conversation with the author where she talks about how this book was largely modeled after her own life and relationships that she was in when she was really young, like a young teenager. And I think that also helps the justification of this book too, because it's not necessarily saying that, you know, relationships like this are ideal or are right, but they happen. And in a lot of ways you can argue that this relationship is the best and most healthy relationship that these characters have in their entire lives. So like with the rest of their families and the rest of their communities and whatever, this is the strongest relationship they have, and just because it ends up developing into a romantic one doesn't mean that it's inherently wrong or that there even has to be a right and wrong. It just is. And one more thing that she also mentioned in the back here was that she was also trying to convey the importance of consent, and not just sexual consent, but also consent in all of those other relationships that I was just talking about. So like there's a scene in here where our main character, Wavy's dad, is trying to force her to eat, and just the way of like forcing somebody to do anything, whether it's eating or whatever the person doesn't want to do, it's wrong and can have major consequences. Or, you know, the consent to give hugs even to platonic family friends or whatever, or consent for teachers to take certain actions towards their students. Just a lot of things like that that aren't really discussed, and this book discusses them. I mean, I understand why this is so highly praised by the people who have actually read it, and I think it's won like popularity awards and things like that, and so I get it, and I do think it is important to put it out there what kind of is at the heart of this book, you know, this sort of romance between a young girl and an older guy, because I can absolutely respect how that could be, you know, triggering or just not something that somebody wants to read about. But if you can get past that as like the blanket description and realize that it's gonna go a lot deeper into all of those other conversations that have nothing to do with romance, then it's a really worthwhile book to read. So I'm really glad I read it. I think I am going to give it 4 stars. Again, reading some reviews of people saying they just like could not put it down and like couldn't stop thinking about it. I just don't think I'm to that level of loving this book, but again, I really enjoyed it and appreciate it and would highly recommend it. So 4 stars. And so with that, we had some interesting results for this video. I had 1 3-star, which was the Bromance book club, which honestly was probably the book I was expecting to like the most. So interesting that it ended up with the lowest rating, but definitely a fun and solid romance. Just didn't hit me emotionally as much as I like. And then 2 4-star books that I definitely would highly recommend. Oona Out of Order, a fun sci-fi, totally what I was looking for, totally what I expected, and delivered on that. And then probably the biggest surprise, All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. Probably the book that I will spend the most time thinking about in the future. And yeah, again, I'm just glad I read it. So that is all that I had for this video. I think it was definitely successful, and while Jacqueline's favorites didn't necessarily end up being my like all-time favorite books, I still really enjoyed them, and I think I will continue to take her book recommendations in general. So that's definitely a good thing. Let me know if you have read any of these books that I read and what your thoughts were, or if you have any suggestions of other booktubers that you think my taste might really closely align with and that I should try someone else's favorites. I would be happy to do that. Otherwise, I don't think I have anything else. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.